So how do you pick like?
Not you going all the way back.
Oh yes, all the way. So how do you decide like this is a good fit for me? That's not gonna like crash my career or like these are real conversations. How do you decide what is like a story that you really want to tell regardless of outcomes, or maybe the outcomes don't matter? Like how do you decide that?
I think initially I don't care. I don't look at like what people are gonna say. I'm not a person that really cares about what people say. I mean, look like I do, but I don't. But but I think it's like I'm like, okay, this needs to be told and the reason why. So the reason why I did Surviving R.Kelly is because I saw other white counterparts who were speaking out, but I was like, I know this happens to us as well. And so when that came out with R.Kelly, I was like, okay, with my connections, I was like, I know I can get to the family and try to help them, you know, with trying to get their daughter back, because I lived in Atlanta at the time. So I think with R.Kelly, it was like, I'm a mother, I live in Atlanta, I have resources, I have a network, I can make it work. Like, you know, I thought it was gonna be a 2-hour documentary, you know. And right, I mean, and then 5 years later, it was, you know, 3 seasons and following the trial and me almost getting kidnapped and all that stuff was not even in, you know.
That's my question. How are you deciding like?
Yeah, so when I didn't know. That's the thing. It's like, you know that you want to tell a story and it's very important, but you don't know like. The screening was, we got bomb threats, like, so the screening had to be shut down in New York. Then they found out that we lived in the hotel, like where we were in the hotel with the victims, and then we got notes, and yeah, so there's a lot of things behind the scenes that you don't know that, you know, and that was season 1. So I was like, okay, Lord, just help me make it out.
Yeah.
You know, and then when the network comes back and they say, hey, like, you know, we gotta follow up, like, this was, you know, people want to know, and I'm like, well, they need to just Google it and figure it out. My life up through me, and then I'm like, then you know, you have the victims that are like, and survivors, I call them, are like, Tamra, please just like do this for us, kind of thing. And so you have to like, I just put myself aside, and I'm like, okay, this is for them. So they wanted to show how they were going to trial and that they were going to get justice, because a lot of them never had therapy. And I had to be the advocate for them to have therapy, and the network is like, well, we can't do that. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll find somebody who can.
There you go.
Are you guys okay with me doing that? Because I'm going to do it regardless if I'm letting you know, but I'm not asking for permission.
Come on.
Amen. And so they were like, well, you can do whatever. So I got them counselors and was able to get them, you know, therapy and everything. So I was like, okay, that's my reason why I'm doing this. So then we did season 2, and then I'm like, okay, whew, I'm done. And then they're like, no, we gotta like, you know, he's going to trial, we gotta follow that. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. I said, point blank period, I'm not doing it. This is it. I can't do it anymore. And then when you have the families are like, they gotta go through it. So then I have to take myself out again and, you know, talk to them and like, come on, Tamra, you can do it. They're telling me I can do it, you know? And I'm like, okay, I can't let them down at this point. So like, let me do this. And that was when they found out what hotel I was at, was almost kidnapped, had to run after the truck to jump in. It was crazy. But, you know, I was like, that's it. I can't do anymore. Then they came and they said, hey, you want to do Diddy? I'm like, I do not. I was Surviving R.Kelly.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, but Casey Anthony, like Kiosha said, you know, something called the pandemic happened, and she had reached out to like some people that knew how to get in contact with me, and they were like, hey, there's this lady named Casey Anthony. I'm like,
a lady?
I'm like, Casey Anthony, the lady like in Florida? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. Like, well, she wants to have a meeting about telling her story, and I'm like, what? You know, so during that time, I just was like, okay, at this point, I'm a journalist. Like, you know, I was like, you know, people are gonna come to me after Surviving R.Kelly. I'm gonna have to be open to it. So I had a conversation with her, was on Zoom with her, was like staring at the lady, like, is this really you? Like talking, you know, like, why do you want to talk to me? And she said, well, you're a Black woman. You did Surviving R.Kelly. I like the way you told the stories, and I feel like you can tell my story. Because if I was a Black woman and I was on trial back then, I would not be sitting here talking to you today. So how do you say no to that? A white woman telling you, I need you to tell my story. because they wouldn't be that way if I were black, you know? I was like, yeah, that's exactly what she said, and of course she tried to tell me how to do it, but I was like, wait, this is what I do. You know? Well, she was like, you know, I don't want people on there that are talking bad about me. I'm like, girl, that's everybody, it's all of us. So, but I was like, you know, you gotta tell it from a journalistic point of view. Some people you gotta remind them of the story. Some people gotta, you know, they've never heard the story before, especially like, you know, TikTok is based off crimes on TikTok. I'm just here to tell you. And anyway, so yeah, that happened, and then I was like, okay. She was like, I was like, I know Oprah talked to you. Like, me and Oprah have a lot in common, but the zeros we don't. You know, so I was like, I'm not paying you to talk. You don't want any money, right? She's like, nope. I just want to tell my story, and that's it. She's like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. And she hadn't, you know, she never testified at court. I look back, and she never had interviews. Like, we never seen her. And so I felt like it was a duty to like figure out how did she get acquitted from this? Like, you know, that story was never told. The evidence, we never saw the evidence. We just saw Nancy Grace being upset about it, you know? And so that she got off, everyone's like, how did she get off? How did she get off? So I thought, you know, it's an older story. You know, nobody really cared, or not necessarily cared, but you know, it's an older story, but I was wrong about that.
Very. I don't want to say you were wrong, but
very wrong.
They were very interested in this story. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. Did she do it? We can't answer that today.
You gotta watch it on TikTok.
Thank you, Tamra. All right, and we have like 5 minutes, so I want to get these two important questions in. Crystalline, what was your strategy for navigating